What's up, Covalence friends, and welcome to the final installation of this email auth series. So if you haven't checked out any of the previous videos, go ahead and look in the description for the playlist link. And if you want to see more cool videos like this in the future, go ahead and subscribe to our channel to get notifications whenever cool stuff comes out. So as far as email-based multi-factor authentication goes, we have a couple changes that we need to make to our application. One, our database. We need to modify the users table to have one extra column so that we know if we should toggle multi-factor authentication on or off. And we need a second table to store the codes, at least temporarily, for each user's login attempt. So it's not too terribly much, and we will be doing a little more on the database side of things because programmatically, there's not really too terribly much going on otherwise. So let's go ahead and check that out. I was just editing my README, basically saying the same steps here. I'm going to go ahead and open up my database, connect to it, and make those modifications themselves. So, there we go. I'm going to connect to our YouTube auth series database. And then I'm going to alter the users table. Right now we just have our 4 columns: ID, email, password, is verified, and we're basically just going to create like an is MFA enabled or MFA is enabled, some column like that, just a boolean saying whether or not they've got that feature enabled. You'll probably want to default that to false, although it would be nice to enforce MFA for all users for your applications. You might get some pushback, but more security, love it. So you have to kind of balance security with UX, and for that, you probably should default it to false, but let's go ahead and make that alteration. So alter table users, add column, we'll go with that. MFA is enabled. Say it's a tiny int with a default value of 0. All right, there we go. And I'm going to modify my user to have that set to 1, just because otherwise, I would have to create like a profile UI and a backend route to toggle that, and that's, kind of an accessory function to this. I just want to focus on the auth side, not like the route and the profile to, toggle between those. So let's go ahead and do that. So and my user account is number 3, so I am now enabled. So just to verify that, to verify that, here we are. ID, email, MFA is enabled. I am now set to true. So let me go ahead and adjust my types accordingly. And just like is verified, MFA is enabled is going to be 0 or 1. So, we need to go ahead and add in our extra table as well. So we need a codes table. Yeah, we'll call it that. The code itself is what we're gonna, let's see. We'll store like a 6-digit number. Yeah, so, well, that might just be small int, not tiny int territory. We'll store an integer for our code. The email has to relate to an email in the users table, so we can actually foreign key that. That way, like, if you were to try to insert a code for a user email that didn't exist, there should never be a situation where that does occur, but I still like making sure my data is relational where it should be relational anyway, so. And I'm just checking the, I'll be storing the timestamp. I'll be using like day.now and like doing that evaluation. So honestly, I'm just gonna store that as an integer, because I'll have node check everything for me. So I'm gonna foreign key email to the user's table email property, and I'll set up a primary key on this table of the code and email, because as unlikely as it is, we technically could have a 6-digit code be duplicated in our table, but we'll make some database calls that will remove all codes for a user, so a user should only have one active code at a time. So we'll do a primary composite key with that. So we'll create that. And I want to go ahead and create a type defining the codes table. So a code will contain a code property, which is going to be an integer. Email, that's going to be related to the users table email property. I could just say it's a string, but I like to have my types like almost self-document when I have foreign keys established. So it's kind of weird, but this does let me see that I have some kind of relational nature between these two interfaces. So if I know these are both like interfaces describing an object from one of my database tables, it's pretty easy to see that, oh, a code email is associated with the users table email property. So these two are foreign key to each other. I believe I said expires at, but let me just double check that. I don't trust myself, so I'm going to copy paste that. Here, perfect. Okay, so now we've described what a code exactly is and should be. So now that we have that interface defined, oh no. There we go. Now that we have that interface defined, let's go ahead and start integrating some of that functionality. I need to go ahead and add in some queries. So I'm going to make a new file in our database folder, in our queries little subfolder there. And let's see. Need to import that query function from up1 directory. And I need to import the codes interface. I think I may have called it code. There we go. So, what I will do is we'll have a create and a delete and a get, effectively speaking. So create, we'll just insert an entire code object in, keep it nice and clean. So const create, we'll take an entire code object and we'll say insert into codes set, and we'll use that set syntax. To unpack the entire object. Super nice and easy. Get. So like I said, we're going to make it so that we only have one code per user per time. So I think for now, I'm actually just going to get one by an email. So changing that generic to be an array of codes, so that way and I say an array of codes even though I just explicitly said we're only going to have one at a time. It's just because the MySQL library, when it runs a select statement, doesn't know that it's going to be grabbing just one item, so it's always going to send an array of objects instead. But we, however, know that we should just be getting a singular one. And then we'll delete all codes for a specific user too, as kind of a way of just clearing out pre-existing ones. So if for some reason we attempt to validate theirs and it fails, we can delete all the current existing ones and generate a new one. And you know, that way we've got no like old codes hanging out. So we'll pass in the email, because yet again we're using that kind of as our primary key. It works out nicely here. And we'll just change this to delete from codes where email equals boop. I'll get rid of this generic here. Since this is a delete statement, it's not returning any data. So that is going to default to the OK packet return type. Let me go ahead and export these queries out. All right, but from the database side, that's actually pretty much it, which is really cool. So, server side. What we need to do is I want to have a service or maybe a utility that deals with generating like codes. I'll make it a utility. Why? Because, I don't know, today's Wednesday. Why not? No particular rhyme or reason. I just felt like it would belong maybe a little better in here. I might move it around depending on what extra functionalities we add here, but it's all semantics. You know, move it where it feels right. So all right. So we will import our code queries. We'll go ahead and import our code type. Oh, I think it was auto completing that path. Nice. And so here, I mean, we could use math.random. For MFA stuff, you probably don't want to be using math.random. The node crypto library probably has random int. Let's see, random int. You give it a max number. Awesome, cool. So, we'll create a function called generate code. So we'll pass in an email into this. And this function is going to return a code object. All right, the code is going to have the email property. Let's see. We said email, a property literally called code, and then the expiration and created at, which we're going to do with date.now. So const current is equal to date.now. So this is going to be an integer giving us the amount of milliseconds since the beginning of Unix time. Which is why I'm just storing it as a number in our database. And then, you know, we're using 15 minutes as like our, you know, JWT expiration. So since we're handling like our own tokens and our own expiration times here, I'm going to try to be consistent with that. So 15 minutes, since Node keeps track of time in milliseconds, we need to multiply that by 60 to get minutes. So I'll say const start is date.now, const end is going to be start plus 15 minutes. And that's just about all we need to pack into that code object. So code will have a created at. Whoops, here I need to give that a type of code. So created at will be start. Expires at will be end, and then we will have code LOL for now. It's a number, so it's going to yell at me, but I was just putting that as a placeholder. So we're calling random int from the node crypto library, and I'm going to give it we're doing like 6-digit codes. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, but that would be like 100,000, like the very first 6-digit code possible. Okay, we'll do this 69. So it can be from 0 to almost a million, to 999,999, inclusive of both bounds. So code is going to be random number. Code random number. Boom. And now we have our code object, which this is going to return. In order to validate a code, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a number, so like we're just validating the date times. So we'll just do this for now. We might change up some stuff, because I was thinking about like doing some opinionated, database lookups, but I'll try to keep this kind of minimalist. So for our login attempt, we need to look at our login check, and all of this has to be behind the verification process as well. So the user's standard login process goes through. We check to see if email and password are there. We see if that user even exists. We see if their password matches. If so, we check if they're verified. If they are verified, here we do not want to log them in quite yet unless they are unless they have MFA disabled. So let's say if not, user.mfa is enabled. So if they don't have it, they can log in as normal. Else, we'll have the rest of our login logic here. And then we can say, yeah, we'll just fire off an email with that token. So const code is equal to generate code. Beautiful. That requires an email, which we have as user.email. And then we can fire that off in a little mailer. So yet again, we could really modularize this because it's a lot of the same repeat stuff over and over. So like I could create a config object or something to where it can take like an email and URL path and URL type and subject, and that way we could have it play out a little more repeatably, but I might do some cleanup at the very end of this. Although the MFA link, this is going to be drastically different from everything else. So let's see. We don't need to send the email because that's part of the code. So your 6-digit code is here. Code.code. Probably could have named some stuff a little more differently. Also, I love how my lizard brain is freaking out right now because I'm writing these, you know, HTML elements within a string, and I'm freaking out because they both are sibling elements and have no parent root element, and I'm like, oh no, React's gonna freak out, but I'm just writing HTML in a string. The library, I think, will handle it just fine. And so I guess we could make like a separate like MFA page. Or we could do some conditional rendering. I'm still not exactly sure what I want to do client side. For now, let's just generate the code and send it. And just doing some like standard MFA stuff like, we're not calling you or asking you to give it to us, don't share it with anyone, etc. You know, just kind of standard text. But so we'll generate the code. We will await send MFA link. We'll pass in the code object there. And then what we're going to do is we need to store that code to duh, because otherwise, like, what do we have to check? So I need to import the codes table. So we'll wait codes dot create, and we pass in an entire code object. Fantastic. What I'll do here is I'll just do like the codes.destroy beforehand. So like we'll, you know, blow up any pre-existing ones, and then we'll go ahead and store our brand new ones. So this is going to ensure that, you know, when we attempt to log in, we're only going to have one. And we'll do the same thing when we're verifying. For some reason, if it fails verification, we'll destroy all of them for that user and just recreate it. And then gotta send up a message property. And I'm going to set up a Boolean property here too, needs MFA. So that way we can do some like conditional rendering client side, I guess. And for the message, I'll say, please check your email for the login code for the 6-digit code. Okay, So this is going to block logging in until they successfully validate everything. So right now we have our codes being stored. We have an email generating, or we generate the code and then we send that via email. And then the user will not be able to log in until we go through some verification process. But let's go ahead and create a new file, MFA. This auth router is getting huge. And let's see. How about this? Because, I mean, we're... You know, we're doing a lot of the... all of the legwork for like logging in. Like, I don't want to create a new MFA router here because we would have to like do all of the, you know, checking here. So what I'll do is we'll kind of like hijack the login page itself. So I'll create a code property that we rip off from the rec body. And just to make things like not ambiguous, I'm going to rename this to new code down here. But here, once we've established that the user.mfa is enabled property, we'll say if code else. So if our user does not have the code sent in the rec body, we're basically like clicking login and it's going to say, hey, check your email. We'll get that code. We can make the client side expand to have a second input. What we'll do is do something like this. So if that code is not present in the rec body, we're treating it as a brand new login attempt. And if it is, we will attempt to validate it. So if that code exists, yeah, let's go ahead and create like a validate function here. I guess we technically don't need to store like the start time in the database. We just need the expiration time. So we really only need 3 columns on that, but whatever, you know. We've got it. Some extra context, I guess. You know, all we need is like the expiration time and the current time. So and we'll say we just need to see if now minus 15 minutes is, or if we need to see if end plus 15 minutes is greater than or equal to the current time. Wait, right? Oh god, Boolean logic, y'all. I'm sure some of you guys are like yelling at your screens like, no, it's the other way. We'll return if now is less than or equal to code dot expires at plus. Oh, we don't need the 15 minutes here at all. We just need to see if the expiration time if it's greater than or equal to the expiration time. Yeah. Yeah, okay, okay. So that just validates the time. We need to look up the code itself from like the database table. So we'll need to try catch. We need to import our code's queries themselves. So we'll make this an async function, const. Let's see, and we'll actually just be, let's see, code, this will be a 6-digit number from the rec body. So we'll need to validate email and code. Let me get rid of that file, that's kind of in the way, and we actually don't need it. So let's see. So do codes.get. Believe the email parameter is just what we need to pass in. So we will only have one that gets issued per user. That means when we generate our code too, let's see, we need to make sure we delete it, but we should only return one code for the user. Okay. And then once we have that, we need to see if that stored code from the database matches that code parameter here. So so here we'll need to check to see, let's see, is not expired. Oops. So now is greater than or equal to match dot expires at. All right. You can say something like if not match, return false. And so we should have a defined match there, and we'll have a boolean here if it's not expired, and we'll have a boolean here called codes match that will see if code equals match dot code. And I'm just doing a lazy comparison here instead of a double equals because this code parameter is actually going to be a string unless we do some parsing from our client side. So I'll try to be cognizant of that, but actually, yeah, we'll let TypeScript yell at me. So it's getting stored as a number, and here I just need to make sure that I parse it first. So I'll let TypeScript yell at me at that. All right, so this validate function is going to go ahead, look up that code from the database, and if it's good, we get true. Otherwise, if we don't have both these conditions true, that returns false. If there isn't one in the first place in the database, it's false. And if we have some kind of unforeseen error, we'll just go ahead and return false anyway. So and then here we'll go ahead and nuke everything for that user. So we'll say codes.destroy for the email. And this needs to be async. And in case we have some error deleting them, we'll just log that out, but shouldn't happen. So Cool. We got something a little more polished now. So if the code is present in the rec body, we can say const is verified, which we already use as like a user property. Call it matches. I call it validate. And like I said, we need to, it thinks it's anything, we really should parse it. All right, so that's going to return a Boolean. And then if the code ends up matching, that's great for us because all of that validation logic is abstracted away, makes things a little nicer in this, behemoth of a login function. But if that matches, then we can go ahead and just generate a token for them. And so, like, we can just copy this, paste it here. We could also, just for like cleanup sake, I guess we could delete the codes for that specific user as well. So we've already validated it. We know it's good at this point. Oh wait, no, we actually need to save the results of matches, duh. All right, so this should be like the final stuff in like our giant decision tree. So if it does not match, we're not going to assign a token. We're going to go ahead and just basically do a lot of this again. So now that's got us thinking, hey, can we, if it's running all of this exact same code again, shouldn't we maybe like abstract this out to maybe a separate function? And the answer is yeah, probably. We'll do some cleanup later on that, like I said, though. So all right. Although I don't necessarily want to await the results of that. We could let that just like that promise kind of execute synchronously as is, just let it happen in the background because I don't really care about the results of it. We'll just let it, well, that's weird. VS Code just being silly. There we go. No. Oh wait, I'm not awaiting generate code. That's why. Okay, cool. So that's the login logic. So we got this giant kind of block here, but we do have to evaluate a few things conditionally. So we have to make sure that the user exists, and if the passwords match, and then if they're verified, and then if they have MFA enabled. So we do have a lot of possible outcomes in this decision tree, but backend wise, that is mostly done. And so like I said, we'll just kind of hijack the regular login functionality. If a code is in the rec body, we'll go ahead and actually just do all that validation. So client side, let's go look at that poor login page. All right, so I'll add in an extra piece of state here, MFA code. That's a string because we are copying and pasting from inputs, and our backend will convert it back to a number before evaluation. We'll say let's see. Let's group some of this together, some cleanup from previous videos. Let's see, we'll put those in the same fragment together because we want those conditionally show up when we're logging in and when we have the email but not the password. When we are logging in with MFA, you know, we will log in with the password, so we won't see those conditionally. But what we could do is have a second button show up here. Or maybe we actually don't need that at all. So when we don't have an MFA code and when we do have login, or if we don't have MFA mode, then we have this ternary here that says login and register. If it is MFA code, we are not registering with MFA, so we'll have the button text say login with code or something. Or I guess we could have just left that login. I guess we also didn't need any change here, technically speaking, so let's get rid of that, because if your MFA is enabled, if we set that to true, then you're in login mode, so never mind, that button doesn't change. We will have an input conditionally show up, however, so here we will have a third input, and it's not password, it's going to be our state of MFA code. And what we're going to do is we will conditionally evaluate that. If MFA code exists, we will return this grid element. Or, I guess, not exist. If it, let's see, we should have like a conditional state like is MFA. I will set to false. And here we'll evaluate is MFA. So that's our Boolean, just to toggle it, and here that's going to be our string value. Cool. So how do we determine if is MFA should be enabled or not? Well, the data response is going to have that property, maybe. It's either going to be true or false, right? It's either going to be a Boolean that we explicitly set to true if we look at our login route on the back end. Needs MFA, and if it's missing, the absence of that evaluates as falsy. So if not res dot needs MFA, that's going to be what we'll need to establish every single time for that state. So That's our super quick and dirty way of checking that. So most of the time it will be undefined, and so not undefined is truthy, and or whoops, not res but data. So data is going to be so needs MFA, it's going to be undefined most of the time. Not undefined is true. Not undefined is not true, which is false. So we've got that, Boolean condition here, and we don't even need to do any conditional evaluation actually. As long as we have data, we can set is MFA to the results of that. So if it's true, not true is not false, aka true. So no matter what, only where we explicitly send that as true will it enable that. So I do have it enabled on my account. So let's go see what everything looks like now. Let's see. And I have the horrible habit of never shutting down servers. So crud. I forgot what garbage I changed my password to. I think we did WoW in the last video, but we'll see. Crap. Well, hey, we've got the password reset feature, so sick. We're actually getting to use this in a real life evaluation, so. I'm going to set it to Hunter 2 just because that's always my default testing one. Cool. So now I am logged in. I'm going to try to log in with Hunter 2. Let's see. Okay, there we go. We were trying to insert, let's see, this as an integer. That might be big int, so let me go ahead and change that. See if medium int is good enough. So yeah, we actually saw that it did attempt to actually write that. We just had our database say like, whoa, it's too big. Let's just store it as a string, I guess. Maybe if big int isn't sufficient enough. Cool. And so our server sends back that response with an MFA code. And so we will get that here. And let's see, this is our newest one, 689.860. And if we go look at our table, let's see. That should be it. These are our date timestamps. Let's see, 893, 836. So this is our updated one. That's our current, or was our current time. Cool. Let's see. All right, well, let's try putting in the wrong code. And so that's a response I'm saying if it's like, we could probably change that a little bit. we'll do this. So that way we send up a slightly different message. And since I'm sending it as a 401, the response status is not going to be okay. And therefore, we're going to see a red alert versus that green one. So server-side change, it's not going to require client-side refresh. So try to log in with that. Oh, wait, no, it's never sending it. I'm an idiot. It's still sending this because I don't have code in the rec.body. Whoops. Oh, goodness gracious. So body will have be an email and a password. We'll say if MFA code body at code is going to equal MFA code. That's our string state. Whoops. Okay, now we should get the error message with the bad thing. Classic Andrew, am I right? And let's see. Body, it's going to be an object with some keys of string values with, and these are going to be string values as well, email, password, and even the MFA code, because they are all derived from inputs on the client side. There we go. All right, now I should get my angry red boy. Huh. Login, we've got code as part of the rec body. Right, let's go look at our networking requests. I'm making stuff too happy when it should not be. Suspicious. All right, so we are sending my email in Hunter 2, but MFA code is never getting sent. Let me check my on-change event on that, or let me check our component dev tools, which I might not even have. Oh, I do. I was like, cool. I never use Chrome, only for like videos. MUI has a massive component tree. Let's see. There's our login register. That is truthy. So, oh wait, no, I am doing client-side code changes. Duh. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm sure y'all are screaming at me saying, Andrew, you freaking idiot. Me too. So, logging in, we have MFA enabled, so it's going to send up that Boolean property of true. Therefore, it's going to have this show up. We'll go to our email, get the latest code. I kind of like the look of this. You know, look how official this looks. So I'll paste it here. I'm going to leave off that, get an incorrect one. There we go, incorrect code. Please check your email for the 6-digit code. And we'll look at our database. So select all from codes. The old one is no longer there anymore. Ours that we will see is going to be 487116. So let me look at local storage, make sure we're not currently logged in. I mean, we probably have an old token, so we technically are logged in. And then the issue that was like, yeah, like 8 minutes ago, so that is an older token. So we definitely are not, you know, currently logged in, I guess. Oh, shucks. Let's see. So it failed to validate. That's interesting. Let's go see when and where that failed. So let's log out the incoming values in validate. Okay, so that's coming through just fine. I'm obviously using like the code that's behind, so we should actually be expecting to see issues there. The current one is 402, 6 blah blah blah. Four oh two five six seven. Delete that whole chain. 402 567. Yep, cool. So, let's go look at all the returned properties. That's very interesting. So, the verification function is getting everything correctly. If I had to guess, I'm just screwing up some check in there. So, let's get rid of this log because I know it's receiving everything that we need. Let's log out the entire match object here. Let's go see what that does. So this is going to be one code behind, so let me go grab the latest. So this should be good. Okay, so we have the same code. And let's log out these conditions too. Is not expired is false. Oh, dang it. Let's see. Now is greater than or equal to. Okay. Damn. Okay. So y'all have probably been yelling at me for like 15 minutes now just with that logic, but I just had Boolean logic, y'all. Like some time is less than or greater than another time. Like does not compute. So anyway, that should hit true for that condition now. Okay, let's see if we can actually get a true login now, just because I'm now validating for the right time stuff. I had a feeling that's where it was. So let's go grab the latest token. 141 537. 141 537. Boom. There we go. So I don't like navigate to the success page or whatever after this, but if we check local storage, we will have a brand new token. So our previous one was issued at, not like you can tell, but 447, and this one has been issued at 459. So brand new token, and we prevented login altogether until we had MFA enabled. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Pretty cool workflow. It's really not too bad implementation wise, as long as you're making sure you're following the logic better than I was kind of planning it out. So I hope you can learn from my mistakes and get all of that logic laid out in a more concise fashion. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you have any considerations or other video ideas you'd like us to do and implement, go ahead and drop them. And also go ahead and subscribe just so you can get notifications whenever we have new videos dropping. But otherwise, we'll see y'all around. Catch you later.